and welcome back to the next episode of the MDCP podcast, joined by the usual cohort today, but also we have a very special guest who has snuck into the studio, the one and only Farran Mackay, joining us all the way from the other side of the pond. It is truly an international call today, if it actually wasn't. And from Virtuous Coach Development, how are you, Farran? Can you hear me?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on, guys. Really excited about this chat.
That's awesome. And this is your second time on the podcast, so you're our actually first repeat guest on the MDCP podcast. So that's definitely a win. We don't have everybody back twice.
That's a privilege, then. Thank you.
All right. So today I thought that in discussion with Farran, like something that we thought we could add a little bit of value about is how do we deliver, or the power of delivering on the member experience, and also how that can add value to you as a coach and make you more valuable in your quest to make a sustainable long-term career about coaching. Do you want to kick off, Farran? I'll throw the ball to you first.
Yeah, so I think we all have our own origin stories when it comes to CrossFit. So how we, from our experience with the first workout, and probably most of us even remember the details of that actual workout. They're all very different origin stories, but one thing is in common. The experience we had that very first time was such that made us come back a second time. And the experience that second time made us come back a third time, and this continues on. And I think we've all heard the statement, come for fitness and stay for the community. But I think that kind of does a bit of disservice to the whole experience that a member has within an affiliate. And I think it doesn't recognize the role that the quality of your class, the contact you have with your member has as well on it. So what I like to do is looking at what type of member experiences do people want, and then what coaching practices can we use to deliver those experiences. And I'm not talking about throwing out teaching, seeing, correcting, and group management and all the others. It is about prioritizing them to give the member the experience they want. And once they have the experience they want, they're probably more open to the experience that they need as such.
Yeah.
And so the idea is, if we look at what we do in that perspective, with that lens, and we help develop our coaches in that way, then it's only a win for everybody involved.
Who wants to kick off as a follow-up? Christina?
I feel like I don't know, like I'm ready, but I know Sam is so excited for this, so I don't want to like.
I am, and I also forgot that I was muted, so I appreciate someone saying something.
Oh, you!
Yeah.
I see you were talking. I knew it.
I would have just like went on yakking and having no clue what the circumstances were. All right, so I agree with what you're saying. I also want to play devil's advocate, right? So this notion of giving the client the experience they want, so they're more open to the experience that they need. I love, it's kind of like it's like a very virtuous bait and switch, where you entice them with this thing and then somehow end up convincing them that burpees are a good thing, not a bad thing. You know, has anyone ever come back and said, but I know what the client needs, and I know that they might hate burpees, but they gotta do burpees. How do you get that coach or that trainer to make that shift psychologically?
Yeah, it's a very common thinking pattern that we have, and usually because we've experienced that ourselves from coaches that we've had who've told us we just have to go and do the burpees and that's it. And what I try and do is get coaches to think about, okay, what for you is an exceptional lesson? What would be a lesson where somebody walks out of it going, wow, that was truly amazing. I got what I needed from that. And I try and get them to think about it from different perspectives. So not only maybe your intermediate athlete or your beginner athlete, but also the mom who's rushing off to school to pick up the kids, or the dad who's rushing home to put on dinner, whatever it might be. And I try and get them to look at the whole experience and what is important to the members. And you'd be surprised how often they forget things like time. Simply starting and ending in time is so important to most members, because they've negotiated with someone in their lives, probably, that this is their hour for them. And that's where I try and get the coaches just to take a step back and try and go into the shoes of other people and trying to figure out what for them would be important.
Awesome. Thank you.
And I think it's very easy to slip in the mode of we know best as a coach. Like, I have the science, I've got all the levels next to my name, I've got all of the information. We're told constantly that, and not necessarily that it's a bad thing, but we already know more than the average person does in their little finger, about fitness, and we're best placed to help people. So sometimes it can be very easy to go, well, they just got to suck it up because I know best, this is the way. And, it's going to, nothing good is ever easy. We can fall into that sort of little trap. So as coaches, I guess, what are our strategies for getting ourselves out of the way and our coach ego, I guess, and we all have that.
Yeah. I mean, from my perspective, I think like the biggest thing that I have noted with coaches that I've worked with is that I always have to ask this question: is this about you or is this about them? And the thing is, obviously, when we do talk about teaching, seeing, and correcting, there's a very specific way that we educate coaches on how to do that, not only so that it is most effective for our members, but so that our job as coaches is easier. We teach in CrossFit, we teach to direct the eye in order to make your job easier, truly, if you're going to boil it down. But the thing is, when you go into a situation as a coach and you're thinking, but I have to do it this way, and I, and this, and me, and me, and me, and me, it's like you've completely lost the point of what we're doing. Getting somebody to scale to meet the stimulus is about their fitness. It's not about you being in control of the situation. I always tell coaches that until they can differentiate between that, it won't click. You gotta look in the mirror.
That's a really awesome point, isn't it? Because even when people are spruiking their expertness online about whatever topic, that their word vomit is about them to prove that they're the smartest person in the room. I'm going to use all the big words, I'm going to use all the things, and I'm going to demonstrate to you that I know more than you, and therefore you need to listen to me. And it's, if as coaches we see it, but also our members see it too, because we understand that can happen with a new coach. They're insecure, so they want to come on and, we've all done it, out of your level 1, word vomit over the first person that comes across your path, the virtuous squatting, and you're going to go do it every time. And so there's a difference between that, new coach anxiety and that needing to go, well, I do know some things that's new, particularly if they've transitioned from member to coach. That's a big step as well. But also, but I think more importantly, as an experienced coach, it becomes really important to be able to, like you said, Christina, look in the mirror and take yourself. It's, it isn't about you, it's about them, and it's their experience. It's their dollar that's paying for the class, the personal training session. It's your affiliate owner's gym. It's like, how can I positively contribute to all of these things? And if you do all that really well, you yourself will have a good experience out of it, instead of feeling tired, frustrated that nobody listens to you. I'm over it, I'm bored. Rather you'll have a more rewarding experience, I think. Thoughts?
I think definitely, because what happens when you fill the needs of your members and they're more open for new experiences and things like that's nothing but rewarding for a coach, because at the end of the day, you're trying to help them, support them in changing their behaviors. And certainly what I've seen when talking to groups of coaches as such, they generally identify 5 or 6 themes of what their members want. And so, yeah, obviously to be safe and things to be on time, but they want to be seen, and that can be seen by the coach or seen by other members. They want to move, very important. Coaches, we need to remember they're there to move. Some of them want to improve as well, and that's where we can go, be relentless with our coaching. And they want to be satisfied with what they've done, and that's where we can help them in understanding their own personal goals and how to reach them. And some of them just want the atmosphere, they want the good music on, and they want the jokes and things like that. But all these things come together to help us choose the coaching practices that will best suit our members in that moment. And every member is different, and they're going to be different from one day to the other. But that's where it's really important to make sure you plan in those contact moments, just to figure out, okay, where is that member today? Are they here just to move, or do they really want to improve? So that's what this whole idea is about, is to really understand what the members need so you can give them what that is.
And it's having that emotional intelligence or emotional agility to be able to read the room, see what's going on in the room. I remember very early in my coaching journey and having a group class, and I was one of those coaches, like, okay, this is what we have to do, here's the structure. And I had a member come up to me afterwards and say, look, I love you, but sometimes I wish you'd just shut the fuck up, because I just want to move today. Because I know that, I understand that what you're telling me is important, but some days I just want to move, and I don't want to know the ins and outs of, everything that we're doing and why and all the, the nefarious benefits or whatever. I just wish that I'm just sitting there sometimes thinking, I wish you'd just shut the fuck up. And that was a big lesson for me to learn that, okay, I need to read the room a little bit better and go, maybe I need to give the people who like nerding out on that information, the information in, a way that I can through maybe the warm up. And the people who just want to move, I can make sure that they're just moving and they're having a great time. But that was a big lesson in, reading the room pretty much, and having that emotional awareness of what everybody else might be feeling. And, from then on, it was like, okay, how do I assess? What's my opportunity to assess where everyone's at today? Usually for me, that was the warm up. It's like, is Farran responsive when I'm talking to her today? Like, how's Christina moving? Does she look like she's uncomfortable, in pain? Is Ash not talking to other people today? Like, is Sam on time today? Wow, that was a miracle. Like, all these things that you can have a mini interaction with people to assess them and use that to go, which goes back to your point, Farran, of were they seen? Like, we've heard the thing, you should use every member's name 3 times in a class. Well, people know when you're doing that shit, but they feel seen, and they know because you've, hey, Farran, how's Sheppy going? Like, still obsessed with big sticks and whatever. It's just that little moment to pay attention to them, which people value.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it in affiliate all the time. Everything starts with why. What's your why? And everybody's reason for staying at their CrossFit gym and doing CrossFit is different. And like Farran said, and every day, everybody's life experience is different. They're coming in with different package, like they may have slept like crap. Maybe they have a newborn baby that's been sick and kept them up for 3 days, or maybe they've been, getting their diet on point and feel amazing, and they want to try their first toe to bar today. But you don't know that unless you have those mini check-ins. And it is a skill to be able to check in with whether your gym has 6 people in a class or 26. To be able to go around and get those little checks without it taking up the entire class time is definitely a skill, but it's one that the more you practice, the better you get at it. And then you are able to make that community come together and everyone get the experience that they want for that hour.
I also think that there's, a lot of times if you kind of look at the historical, the last couple of years of coaching development, there has been, and I'm glad you called it out, there has been this focus on teaching, seeing, and correcting, group management, presence and attitude, demonstration, as a means of providing a rubric for the coaches to think of their development. And, you know, empathy and connection with athletes is talked about, but it's talked about as an add-on a lot of the times, I feel, as opposed to being the chief thing. How do I connect with my athletes? How do I make the provision of fitness a thing that serves the connection, rather than how do I provide fitness and make sure I'm checking the connection box? And I think this is a really, really, I know that as a person who grew up with what I would call technical, tactical coaching as a coach, getting into the feels and the emotions and the connection with the people and learning to balance that it was not something that was natural to me. I have to practice this. And so, like, I'm very interested to hear about, you know, the day-to-day and how you walk this line of, like, I want to coach a really good class. I work really hard to be a good coach. I work really hard to try to figure out how to help somebody get to that first toe to bar, how to help somebody get to, you know, a heavier squat clean today. But doing that in a manner that is not about a progression, or doing that in a manner that is not about a cue or something like that. That's a thing I think, like, I certainly need to hear more about that, how to weave those things into a class, how to not let them take away from the overall experience, how to not prioritize one person at the expense of the group. If you have, you know, let's pick one of those things, not prioritizing a person at the expense of a group. How do you balance those check-ins, make them genuine, and then not let them expand to end up as like a full conversation in the middle of a class and everyone else is just standing around?
I found that, well, for me, the easiest way is you do that while they're moving.
I think one of the things with the check-in is obviously you have yeah, I agree, Lisa. You definitely do it when they're moving. That's the first one, but also being authentic in yourself and asking the right question. You don't just ask, how are you feeling today? You can ask something very specific. How is your energy today? What are you here to do? You know, then you can keep the questions but shorter. You can ask closed questions. Yeah. Are you going to go full out during the workout today? Are you going to go for your ANRM? They're the questions you can ask. So you can be smart in the questions you ask to keep the conversations short enough so you can make contact with everybody, but get the information you need to help you tailor the rest of your coaching during the lesson. And as I think the others have said, it takes practice. You have to start doing it, but it's like teaching, seeing, correcting. It is a coaching practice. And it's something that you just have to go and do and try out and get feedback on as well.
Wonderful.
So from a different perspective, when we're talking about delivering on the member experience, what happens? One of our affiliate clients is in a country where exercise is not part of the culture. So when we're, you know, I guess Western based, we just know the benefits of training, we know the benefits of exercise, we know the benefits of moving. In a culture where exercise is not part of this is what we do, this is, you know, so the people who choose to do that are you know, very proactive. They're the tip of the spear in that community. So when we talk about delivering on the member experience, you know, it goes beyond for I think those affiliate owners in those regions, because there's quite a few, but goes beyond like, how do I get this person, you know, today to have a performance that they're going to enjoy in the gym, but also how do I just get them coming through the door? And when they initially come through the door is, what is a member, you know, the member experience starts basically the first time someone contacts you, I would argue. And how do I then make that experience so good that they come to my door initially and then they continue to come through the door every day? Because it's very easy culturally to go, work's a priority, family's a priority, you know, this is very low in the list of priorities, and not everybody in my circle's doing it. Not everybody around me is doing it. Not everybody understands why I do it. So I think, you know, this is an important part of the discussion in how we make it a great experience, and how we look at all these things that goes beyond what happens, the movements on the floor, because honestly, they probably don't care so much about that.
Yeah.
But it's how we get them to actually turn up and to keep coming when it's not a thing for them, where it's not, this is just what we do.
Yeah. And I think it's an interesting notion, and I agree entirely. You speaking about the client relationship begins the first time they walk through the door. Also, not all coaches have control over that. Sometimes they get handed clients. Like if you're a coach who runs an on-ramp or a foundations program, you might get an email and be like, hey, you've got a new client. You're meeting with them at this time. And so you don't get that first touch point. But it doesn't mean that you can't begin that process early on, for sure. And I think, to your point, the sooner that we can begin that process in a deliberate manner rather than hoping that the client opens up to us. And it took me a long time to figure that out. Things got better quicker the sooner I started looking at them and asking more questions and saying, why are you here? What are your goals? How can I help you get to those things? Rather than, hey, look at how many rowers we have.
And again, that why is that powerful piece. It's that, why
And I think that's something that
are you here?
Sorry, Lisa, I think I interrupted you. But yeah,
No.
As you were saying, the why is the most important piece of everything. And if we lose sight of that, we lose sight at the end of the day of our member. We can treat them like some robot coming in and force them to do whatever movements we ask of them. But unless we really understand their why and understand what's holding them back also sometimes, we'll never give them the experience that they need and they want. We will never be able to make long-lasting positive changes in their behaviors, whatever their behaviors might be. And I think if I look back, we all have our own whys when we joined, but if I look back on my why I originally joined, it certainly changed while I was there. So I joined thinking I just wanted to be fit. And then I realized, actually, I want to connect with other people, and I want to connect with other people in a community who have a same vision as me. And it got deeper and deeper and deeper, my why. And I think it's also good to recognize that people's whys can develop and change over time.
And I think through the various steps of their journey, their why evolves as, and we've talked about this a lot on the podcast about, getting to know your client, and the fact that, when someone first comes to you and says, why do you want to join the gym? I want to lose 5 kilos. Cool. That's very superficial. That's very, and then through conversation and building that relationship, you can find out, well, I just don't like myself very much, or I don't feel like I fit in anywhere. I can't chase my kids. I feel inadequate going up a set of stairs, and on and on and on, rather, but they come in for this initial generic reason. And, the sooner we can break down into that, that core reason, then, we've essentially got ourselves a member for life, because, we can continue to grow and evolve what they're doing as they progress on that journey. Because, otherwise every time someone lost 5 kilos, they'd leave the gym. It's like, goal ticked, done. But they stay for much longer, and they invest for much longer, but it's on that relationship. But if you take people continually that face value, then, you're going to have a revolving door of people heading out once they've hit what they think is their arbitrary goal. And if we don't have, a means of, reminding them of that, there's the Greg Glassman thing, which was just recently shared again by the CrossFit Book Instagram account, about, write down anything that you want to make better in your life and put it in an envelope. Don't show it to me. Just put it in there, just anything, whether, better job, better friends, like anything that you write down. In 3 months, let's open it up, and I guarantee you that whatever's on that thing will be better. And there's a lot of power in that, that's the to highlight, that's what we do. It's not just about the 5 kilos. And as coaches, I think it's our critical job for the benefit of our affiliate where we are, or even our own business, if that's what we're doing, but to connect with members and deliver the member experience beyond burpees, toes to bars, thrusters. It's more about, you're a human, you have these needs, you have these things that you want to work on. I have the skills and experience to help you. Let's go on the journey together.
I think we need to realize too that this takes time, like a lot of time, right? And excuse me, sorry, still recovering from that cough. But not only, not only does it take time, but like you're planting a little bit of a seed each time along the way, and I think that sometimes we can rush it, and I have a member that comes to mind for me that I've tried to ask some of these deeper probing questions, and he's very resistant to it. And it started as he came to me with questions about nutrition and like how can he just feel a little bit better in the gym. And it was like, okay, why do you want that? Like, what are your goals? And and it was the typical, well, I want to look better. Okay, well, what is looking better? Well, I want abs. Okay, why do you want to see your abs? Because that's what looks good. Okay. Like, we're kind of like talking in circles. And to this day, this member jokes with me all the time, like, oh, Christina won't help me because I won't dig deeper. And it's kind of like an inside joke. But every single time that I interact with this gentleman, I know that we're getting closer and closer to him breaking that surface and finally coming out with, you know what? I have 3 kids and I want to be here for them when I'm older, right? Like, I know that there's something deeper for him in there. He just hasn't come out with it yet, but I can meet him where he's at along the journey and kind of continue to plant the little seeds, knowing that even though I didn't get him from 0 to perfect in one class, the more that I speak with him and work with him over time, we're going to get there, and he's going to achieve his goals, and he's going to feel better, and he's going to, find happiness in his health and fitness journey.
And it's really funny that you say that, like, that he's already made the comment that, well, Christina knows I don't want to dig deep, or I'm not digging deeper. He's already got the awareness to know what he's avoiding and why it makes him uncomfortable. So he is heading on that freight train that he can't get off. Bad news for him. It's a coming, and he won't be able to stop it because that's the relationship that you've built. That he now, awareness precedes action. He has the awareness of his own bullshit and his own blocks, and now you're just like the water slowly for millions of years dripping through the Grand Canyon that started out as a little river somewhere, and now it is the Grand Canyon. Open that thing wide open.
But that's what I was going to say, Christina. Like, you may be asking him these questions that he's never even heard of or thought to ask himself. And he's not hiding. He may truly not know how to find the answer because he's never thought that deep before or that way before. Yeah. And that's like where the power of a coach can really make a huge difference, because he may not know it in 6 weeks or 6 months, but in 6 years, he'll be further and closer to the answer of that question and start to be more aware and purposeful with what he wants and why, and that's what the coaches have the power to give our members.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to ask a very direct question, right? So this is the $1 Million Coach podcast. Many times we have talked about how I can go and I can take X seminar, or I can get, X online course or something like that. And none of it really comes with a section that is a how-to to how do I create more value for myself as the trainer, right? Let's assume that, Farran, you've pitched the Virtuous Coach Development seminar to me. I'm bought in. I love what you're talking about. It speaks to me as a trainer. I want to be able to provide that change for my athlete community. I can 100% imagine a bunch of coaches and trainers myself amongst them, certainly at one point in time, who would say, good, I'm going to do this. I'm not in it for the money. I want to give them everything, but we want to be able to provide something tangible. So how have you been successful building that relationship and then having that manifest itself in, because of that investment with that athlete or with this community of athletes, in a measurable change in your own personal, professional growth, not just in terms of things that you know, but also financially?
Well, I think it all comes down to building authentic relationships at the end of the day. I think part of my background as a teacher was when I shifted from my focus being on content I was teaching to the students I was teaching, I realized, hold on, this is way more effective in achieving long-term positive changes. And so my approach when it comes to coaching people is that this is about, whether it is about CrossFit itself or coaching other coaches to coach, this is about that person. Yeah. And this is about helping them make the next steps forward. And usually it's about guiding them in taking the steps in such a way that it's sustainable. So we're not going to try and change all the coaching practices in one go, for example. We're going to take little bits and little changes. So change in general. And what you see is the realization that, oh, this is a way of actually making changes in the direction of iCoach, where I can make better connections with my athletes, where I better understand their needs, where I can go, oh, no, actually, this group of people need, I'm going to use an example, actually, a hook grip program, for example. Yeah. And through these relationships, you get better insights on what they need and what extra services you can offer them in the long run.
Yeah.
And I think that that's, an important skill to have as a coach, is understanding that what we're doing today, what are the future opportunities that it either awakens in the client that they need or want. Like when people come to the gym to do group classes, they're not necessarily coming with a view for doing PT, or vice versa. However, providing the right environment and the right experience means, and creating that value for them, then they start to be interested in other opportunities. Maybe I do need nutrition coaching. I would like you to work with me one-on-one with, my lifting or, whatever it is. Or maybe I do want to get some additional programming, that when they join on day one, they never ever think that like they're just coming to work out. I'm going to the gym, I'm going to work out. That's a traditional mindset.
Right.
And then through providing education and value, then they're like, oh, okay, maybe I will pursue some nutrition coaching, because there's value in having those conversations, because you've already given me so much value in our interactions already. And I see that there is benefit to this. And you open up a world of possibilities in their mind. But as a coach, you need to be not necessarily walking around going, well, if I talk about nutrition, people will see me as a nutrition expert and want to buy my nutrition coaching. But how do I keep in the back of my mind that what I'm doing today lays the foundation for other opportunities to open up tomorrow? Yeah. So, today I might take 5 minutes out of my time at the end of class to hang back and, hey, Christina, I noticed with your toast bar, you're having trouble linking them up. Like, just help her for 2 minutes. Like, if you got 2 minutes, I can just give you a quick tip now. And understanding that 5 minutes, rather than going, no, I've got to go and have my coffee or my lunch, or, scroll my Instagram or post a selfie or whatever it is that you need to do, that 5 minutes could lead to other opportunities for you down the track. Even if not with Christina, but Christina's going to go and tell, her friend Farran at the gym and said, oh, well, Lisa just spent 10 minutes with me yesterday and helped me do XYZ. She's really good at this stuff. You should talk to her about that. Like, it's that perception of value and being aware of the pathways that can create, rather than opportunities, I guess is a better word, pathways.
Yeah. So true.
So
one thing I one thing I do want to add to it is, though, as coaches, we have to be very well aware of the emotional energy we're using as well the whole day. And so we have to be aware for ourselves where our boundaries are. What type of topics are we truly willing to have a discussion with that doesn't cost us too much energy? How can we maintain a really healthy relationship with our members without discovering that, after day 3 or 4, we're so wiped out we can't have a conversation with our kids? So empathy for our members is definitely a must, but it cannot be at the expense of our own health at the end of the day.
Yeah. I agree entirely, and I know I have been on the receiving end of spending too much energy on my clients, and not because I was seeking to exhaust myself, but I wanted to help people. People asked me questions. People trusted me, and so they trusted me to give them good answers. And I want to help people, so of course I help everybody. I don't think setting boundaries gets talked about enough. I know we've mentioned it here, but setting emotional boundaries, knowing, for example, when should something be a 2-minute conversation? When should it be a 5-minute conversation? When should it be a 10-minute conversation? And when should it be not a conversation? And if you'd like to talk about this more, we should set aside a special time for that. That's definitely something that, I need to be reminded about. And I know a lot of coaches can probably build on for themselves.
For sure.
Yeah, we've all been down that rabbit hole. So I guess as we start to, roll up to the end of this episode, I guess we'll go around and see some thoughts from each of you about, what you think is the best way, some actionable stuff that coaches can take away from this about, delivering on the member experience, but considering the things that we have, something that has helped you on your journey to do this. So we'll kick off with Christina.
Oh, wow. On the spot. Well, I have to say that the biggest key is what we talked about earlier, just, is this about you or is this about them? And, obviously there's this overarching theme of creating genuine, real relationships with people. And I think that just comes from, when you have that coaching hat on, obviously not having it affect your personal life too much, but when you have that coaching hat on, it's not about you. And just truly getting to know your people, why they're there, ask them questions. What do they do for a living? What do they do with their friends? What's their home life like? Just get to know them, ask them questions, and plant a little tiny seed each day. Can't do it all in one day, but plant a little tiny seed in this plant of, growing a real genuine relationship.
Yep. Sam.
Things that stick out to me that really barbed me, Christina, your comment about scaling is about the athlete, not about the coach's ability to get the athlete to the stimulus, which is something very much on my mind as I'm trying to, prep for my assessment in December. And it might seem like an obvious thing, but the way you framed it, where it's sure, yeah, it's not just that scaling is an important thing. No, you are actually serving that athlete best if you do that. And then Farran, the notion of giving them the experience that they want prior to convincing them. And so you build trust so it's easier to convince them to get the experience that they need. That kind of longer term play, that longer term emotional investment in those athletes and the positive benefits that can come out of that. Great stuff.
Ash.
I liked, I second what Farran said about authenticity is really key. And, one thing I think coaches can do to kind of keep it simple is, we have a toolbox full of cues, visual, tactile, and I think coming up with a toolbox of questions is another great thing to do. If you're always saying, how's your body today? Or how you feeling? people aren't going to think you actually care. Like if you come up with just different ways to say that, to allow different answers to organically happen so you could learn more, that's really powerful. And again, it's like Christina said, it doesn't mean that every single day you have to ask a different question, but it's just an opportunity for another little seed. Maybe use the same question for a week. I don't know. But like, it's just, you know, be creative with your questions.
Perfect. And Farran, the last word.
And Ashley, I love that you described it as adding questions to your toolbox as such, because I view all coaching practices, everything that we do is a set of tools that we have to choose to use. And that's where I'd encourage people just to go and try out some things, see how it acts, reflect on what happened, why it happened that way, and try it out again on maybe another group of people. At the end of the day, we can always stick fast to what we know and what we know works as such, but there's no growth for us in that, and there's certainly no growth for our members in the longer term if we stick with that.
Beautiful.
Perfect. So, Farran, where can people find out more about you? I know that you have a webinar coming up in the next, day or so. This podcast will go out today anyway, but we can give that a bit of a shout out. But where can anyone find you if they want to see more on your insights on insights on coach development and becoming, the best coach that you can be?
Yeah, I try my best not to insult people, Lisa. I really do. I think the easiest way to find me is Virtuous Coach Development on Instagram, and through that you can get to my website and you can sign up for the webinar, arrange to have a quick chat with me, see what we can do.
Yep, perfect. And I know that your webinar is tomorrow. I think it's 5 p.m. Eastern, or 2 p.m. Eastern, sorry. 5 a.m. Australian, 2 p.m. Eastern, US time. That it
2 p.m.
kicks
Eastern,
off.
and 8 p.m. European.
So if you want to register for that, you will head over to Farran's Instagram, get on. It will be a very insightful chat, I'm sure, and a nice little roundtable discussion. So once again, thank you, team. Great chats. To those who listen, please head over to Fitfiliate and give us a follow. Please feel free to drop us a comment or anything that you would like us to particularly talk about. And we look forward to seeing you on the next one.